Today's topic is about suicide. For our Bible text, 2Corinthians 12:9. Hello Philippines, hello Dipolog, hello Zamboanga del Norte. Welcome once again to LV Amor Vlogs. So, our topic is suicide. Without further ado, murag program, no? Let's begin. What is the reason why people commit suicide? Or some people committed suicide? Some, because not everybody is inclined to do this unpleasant thing. No? So some. According to my favorite preacher, my favorite Bible teacher, the only reason why is there is something in this life that we don't like. We cannot stand to live with it, with something we don't like. Usually it involves our emotions, our feelings. So that's the thing there. Now, what are the effects of suicide? So we have suffering, shame, guilt, finances running out, rejection, frustrations, failures, separation. Kung biyaan og uyab dayog saka sa lubi, mulukso dayon, or maghugot sa liog, magbigti, or moambak suba, moambak sa dagat, lagi pang bulagan og uyab. Oy. And then, pero naayin ana, no? Naayin ana. But, that's it. Mauto siya effect sa suicide. Have I mentioned depression? Depression, that is the most common ground for, the next level ang suicide. So those are the effects. And then, are there people in the Bible who committed suicide? Yes, there were 6. Abimelech, the son of Gideon, King Saul, his armor bearer, King Saul's armor bearer. So both of them committed suicide. And then we have Ahithophel, we have Zimri, and the most famous, the most popular, Judas Iscariot. So these people committed suicide for the reason, shame, guilt. So naadiya nag-revolve, no? So that's it. Is it damaging? Yes. It is damaging to the person involved for ending his life intentionally. And then it is damaging to friends, relatives, and family. And then most of all, it is damaging to God, because our body is the temple of God. So it is just like we are robbing God or stealing God's house, because we are the temple of God. His temple is our body. So it is damaging, no? Now, what are the ways or steps in solving or so we can avoid suicide? Let's go back to the ways and steps in solving depression. So I have a video on depression. So the steps were given there. Pero dalion lang nako, no? So we have to run to God. The reason why people are inclined into committing suicide, because they run away from God, just like Judas Iscariot. He ran away from God instead of running to God. So when we say run to God, pour out all our hinanakit to Him. Tell Him frankly that we are feeling this and that. We are in this situation. all the blah 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 or the complaint, all the tanan, everything, pour out to God. We must be transparent to Him, tell Him everything, casting all our cares upon Him, for He cares much. So that is the most effective solution. Aron di ta kauna-una diri o bigti, no? So, run to God. And then, share to a trusted, faithful Christian friend, trustworthy, no? I-share na to dito, aron makatabang usab. And then, we have to be encouraged. We have to encourage ourselves, no? So, malikay ta didtong dapita. So, ana lang. For all the detail, tuas akong video nga how to deal with depression. Tuwa dito tanan, no? So, let's go to Paul. Paul also experienced a depressing moment in his life when on the road to Damascus, he was blinded by God because he persecuted the Christians, the follower of Christ, no? So, he was blinded by Jesus on the road to Damascus. So, doon na siya, thorn in the flesh. Bible scholars believed that his thorn in the flesh has something to do with his sight, yang mata. So, relatable. Pare-pareho na ba ni Paul? Nga doon ay diferensya sa mata. I myself, I cannot see clearly, or my optometrist once told me that I am blind. Not necessarily nga totally, but he said nga blind. She said nga category nako is blind because of my eye problem. So, Paul was also depressed and he pleaded to God thrice that God would remove his thorn in the flesh. But God never said yes to his pleading. Instead, God told him, "My grace is sufficient for you, Paul." So, moro to ito ba? The same thing, I pleaded to God about my situation, but He answered me the same through His word. My grace is sufficient for you. So, just like Paul, it was God's strength complemented to his weakness. He became victorious. He was able to preach his gospel to the Gentile, to the church. So, his gospel, Paul's gospel is faith alone, without works. For by grace we are saved through faith. That is Paul's gospel to be preached to the Gentile nations. Mo kita karon, kita ang church. We are the result, we are the fruits of Paul's preaching, no? So, nag-move on lang gid siya. He rose up and walked with God. So, muni, kita ang resulta karon. So, God also, the same reason, He did not heal me, my failing eyesight, but instead, by grace, I was able to move. I was also depressed 2 years ago, and I thought of ending my life 5 times. 5 times. But then, I ran to God. I poured out all my feelings to Him. Ang akong mga hinanakit, ang akong mga frustrations, ang mga pains, tanan, gibubo na ko sa Ginoo. And He heard me, He restored me, and gave me a new strength to move on. Here am I, doing His business, sharing His word, no? I don't care unsay isulti sa uban. I will continue to share His word and to do His business. Not other people's business, but God's business. Munay na busy ko karon. And so, just like Paul, just like everybody who are victorious, we can avoid suicide if we run to God. Not run away from God, but run to God. So, mao lang na siya. We have to surrender everything and allow God to intrude our inner being, no? Kay He loves to intrude good sa atong kinabuhi for our own good, for our perfection, no? He wants to bring out the best in us, to build us up, to mature us, no? Everything, and to glorify Him. Mo ginay ang gusto, no? So, rise up, don't be discouraged. Run to God. Ug dunay mga problema, no? Ayaw tanaw sa dagat, ayaw tanaw suba, or ayaw sakas lubi, or anything, no? So, just pray, 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 pray. Read the Bible, spend time with God alone, and then talk to Him. Talk to Him. Kada lihok, talk to Him, pananghid sa Ginoo. Ma-enjoy gid ta sa atong life. So again, mataas-taas naman, mabalik-balik ni po doon niya. 2 Corinthians 12:9, no? And then, my favorite closing remark, have a good and godly day, everyone, and keep on relying, trusting God. For without Him, we are nothing. Without us, Christ can stand alone. But without the I-A-N, as Christian, I am nothing. Patay kita. So, have a good and godly day, everyone, and hangtod sa sunod. Jesus loves you and me.